which is a beautiful white marble figure called the sandal binder sculpture. Supposedly done by a guy named Schadow, whatever, in 1814. I'm probably botching his name, so I will call him Schadow for the duration. That seems like an appropriate name for this particular mystery of the realm. So let's see how this goes. So Schadow was one of the most talented and original 19th century sculptures. And the sandal binder is one of his most iconic compositions. It's a conceived example of Northern neoclassicism. That's a tongue twister. So, of course, we want to look up I wonder if his statue will show up here. Anyway, this is, wow, amazing stuff, huh? I mean, we could just stay here all day. Anyhow, let's get back. So until now, there was thought to be only 4 life-size versions. The appearance of this sculpture is both exciting and significant, as this version, signed and dated 1814, is almost certainly Shadow's original version. So it sounds like they're saying they didn't know this one was around, and if I'm not mistaken, they claim that it was with a private collector in the 80s and the 90s. This one popped up all of a sudden for auction, signed and dated. Kind of important as we go along here. And his father is this guy. Not only is his old man, I mean, look what he's attributed to. For crying out loud. Not only is his old man a superman of the arts, his brother is also a superman of the arts. And he did a painting with the sandal binder in it. There's supposedly a plaster model of this thing. So this first one that we're going to take a look at, not signed and dated, described by Eckerd. Now, I looked into this guy for about an hour and I came up with nothing, but he claims that this is possibly the original version. Technically, though, this statue can't be attributed to him because it's not signed and dated, so no one really knows where it came from, except for that it was bought by the lizard creatures in Rome in 1820. Then it decided to take a trip and visit the Annibale on the plantations in South Carolina in 1840, where it remains to this day, courtesy of the Middleton Place Foundation archives. This version has sadly suffered considerable damage as it has been displayed outside for many years and was buried to hide it from the Union troops at the end of the Civil War when they marched on Charleston and Middleton. Together with its collections, the library was burnt to the ground. They love to burn stuff to the ground. And here's the thing, together with its collections, the library was burnt. So was it buried or was it burnt in the collections? It's a little funny, but we can see that this statue is sitting here and it's beautiful, right? I mean, they put it in a beautiful place and it's along with some other beautiful statues. This statue doesn't look like it was burnt. Maybe it was trampled on, but it could also be a cover story for just moving it around. And, you know, this thing weighs a lot. It went from Rome to South Carolina. You know, it's just a question. What went on with this first one that we're looking at here? It's not signed and dated, so, you know, did it just get moved around or did it really participate in the Civil War? Before we get to where the other statues reside, I want to keep in step with the first couple of statues and look at this painting done by Shadow's brother, Wilhelm, in 1816. Christie's would like the buyer to believe that they are acquiring the very figure that's in this painting. Their reasoning is that the Christie's figure is dated before the painting at 1814. So for a long time, the blank statue in South Carolina was thought to be the original. But now that this 1814 one is here and ready for extortion, they kind of backpedal, saying that the courts and collectors were clamoring for this figure, so it turns out that it was a rushed sale. The Christie's article is written in such a way that it sounds like not only do they want to dethrone this figure in South Carolina, but they further degrade its value by hinting at the idea that it was just rushed to sale. What I find interesting is that I can't find any exhibits, fairs, art collections, or museums depicting this painting on a wall in all its signed and dated glory for the whole world to have no doubt about its origins. No, I can only find this crop version with no identifier at all. So I went to this link and worked through a list of 10,000 names of artists that have residence at Berlin. But I didn't find his work. It was a lot of names, so who knows? Could have missed it. Christie's article claims that there is a drawing of the sandal binder, but I could only find an engraving by a guy named Ferdinand. I think this is a draft of the statue, to be honest. But they want us to believe that Ferdinand was so impressed that he just had to sit down right there and record the event of a statue for all the future generations. Pretty silly, really. But it gets weirder. The article says that Ferdinand inscribed this in the engraving: Rudolph Schadow, the marble made in Rome, 1814. So they're trying to tie the Christie statue in with this engraving as well as the painting by saying that the inscription in the engraving is identical to the inscription in the marble of the sandal binder at Christie's. But wait, the person who inscribed the engraving signed Shadow's name to it, along with the phrase, the marble made in Rome, 1814. Obviously, Schadow would have signed and dated his own marvelous sandal binder, right? So they leave me with some loose and contradicting statements here, summing up the lore or myth by reiterating that the South Carolina statue has no inscription, and the other three don't match the inscription at all and were finished considerably later. Well, some things don't add up. One, what doesn't match, the inscription or the signatures? And two, why wouldn't all four have the same Schadow signature? Isn't that what it's for? So your art can be accurately identified? And three, of course the signatures don't match. Schadow didn't sign the engraving and nobody claims he did. Geez, you want to talk about obscurantus to the domes. And here we go. We're going to take a little walk with the oracle to look at the other three statues, but I wanted to compare the difference, if any, of the first sandal binders. And even if we look at it from this kind of view, say these guys were working from a cast, and that's how they were able to bring so many to market. That just brings up more questions as to why aren't these two pillars identical? I could speculate also that the perfectly printed signature and dates would be built into the cast. Why would a guy who can make cast molds this good go near anything with a chisel? Why would he have any blank statues at all, for that matter? Incorporating the signature into the cast isn't an afterthought. It's a decision made at the plan level. And if you want to go one step further, the engraving has no visible markings, and I pontificate that this is the plan for the finished product, not a blueprint or a technical drawing, just a pose for the sculpture, if you will. Coincidence or accidents, neither does the South Carolina statue. I know we're only looking at one angle of the engraving. I can't find any other angle at all. I don't understand why this guy Ferdinand would travel to Rome and engrave a statue that mesmerized him, according to the narrative. Now, supposedly, this mesmerized him so much that he forgot to engrave the angle that shows off the signature of an old master at his own workshop? Now, that seems a little disrespectful at the very least. And the face of the engraving is a bit different, but the last time that I engraved was the 9th grade, so what do I know? Still, to throw this engraving out there as authenticity of the figure's origin is a stretch for me after spending so much time in the binder's world.